What is going on, guys? Today we are going for the God of War Valhalla Platinum Trophy to clean up that 100% completion. There are 12 total trophies and it's estimated it will take around 8 to 10 hours, maybe more depending on how much of a god gamer you are. Difficulty doesn't really impact the trophies, so I'd say it's a 3 to 5, maybe more depending on the difficulty you choose.
Story time!
Once I got my PlayStation 5 on Saints Row's release a little while back, I wanted to make it to 100 platinum trophies, ranging from backlog to classics to new releases and also games that I really wanted to replay again. We're currently sitting at 32 platinums for some really amazing games, completely avoiding all shovelware, and I thought we should document the rest of the journey. So like and subscribe to follow along, comment below what games you want to see, and let's jump right into it.
Okay, let's go.
A little while ago, the guys at Santa Monica Studios gave us a free DLC for God of War Ragnorok. Jumping right into the DLC, we start off with Kratos and Mimir on a boat going around this island. After fully sending it into the beach, we are going to go exploring Valhalla, but before we do, we get our souls sucked out of us.
Hey, yo!
We later find out that the suck we just received is a punishment for just turning up here. Since we don't know what we're doing, we just kind of force open this door and we are immediately teleported into our first run. Before we dive any further, let's briefly explain the gist of the DLC and layout. In a nutshell, Kratos has been invited to therapy, where he will reflect on his life before he accepts the protector-style role Freya has offered him following Ragnarok's ending. Valhalla is a roguelite DLC, where you will essentially run through different rooms, kill certain enemies and get certain rewards. Once you beat 1 or 2 rooms, you are taken to a safe region where you can decide which doors to pick for your next area, upgrade your current items and collect chests, some of which you will need keys that you will unlock later in the game. Occasionally you'll be given story cutscenes in these areas too. You will need to keep going through until you have slain certain enemies called Valhalla's Chosen. These often were brutes or other larger enemies from the base game. If you die or complete the run, you will lose everything and then are sent back to your main area, which is the beach, and this is where you will spend other currencies unlocking other upgrades like stats, glyph slots and starting funds and many more. A few points worth mentioning to ease up the grind. Firstly, the spear is OP, and it took me way too long to realise this. You can easily complete the main story of the game with just the spear. The beginning chests will impact which safe zones that you get during your run. This helps if you're going particularly for the Visiting Every Realm trophy. And when resetting, you are offered to use certain shields, rage types and relics to earn more currency. Do this all the time so that you can get those early stat upgrades, because it really does help. Now with all that covered, back into the progress. To start off, we are not offered any shield to block or parry, and we are incredibly weak due to the random head that we got earlier on the beach.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So it did not take long for me to really send Kratos to Valhalla, but it turns out we were already here, as we wake up on the beach from earlier, but this time the gang has arrived to wake us up.
Get the fuck out of bed, bitch, go!
After a nice little catch up, they are baffled as to how we got into Valhalla, and even more confused when we said we just opened the door. Since this place was meant to be secret and sealed, everyone wants to know how we managed to find this place, and it turns out we received a letter stapled to our door.
Pepe Julian Onzima. Good morning. Why are you gay?
The good news is, our first trophy pops for just turning up and dying. Now the gang want to show me a little side project that they've been working on. Turns out that they've all joined a choir, and to be honest, they are. But it does open the door for us properly, and somehow we can now enter without being sucked off.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
After completing our first set of doors, we are ready to progress through these sands, which typically take you to the end game part of your run. This time, however, since we're early on, we are taken to a projection of the throne room that Kratos sat in at the end game of the original God of War, causing some trauma, which pops a blood vessel, sending us back to the beach. However, since we are here, we're going to go for the next trophy, which is for applying a cosmetic item in the armor stat. Simple enough. Heading into our second run, everything starts off well and we are taken to face our first Lord of the Locker Room, or Valhalla's Chosen,
So no head?
as they prefer to call themselves. The next fight was not expected, as it turns out it was a portal into the multiverse and we have to fight Fisk. After giving him a beatdown a lot worse than he got from Miles, we can definitely say he is not going to be a future problem. Now we have to claim our rewards. We head through the next door and we end up back in the throne room again. However, this time we get to meet the rather hilarious character, Helios. Him and Kratos got on great in Olympus.
Daddy, chill.
Shortly after watching Mimir turn into Helios and then having a brief catch up, we end up in this open chain room surrounded by some familiar faces. Yes, another set of beings that Kratos has killed from the third game called the Judges. However, I am certain that this one is Thanos.
Look at this dude.
The next area, however, is a serious callback to the old God of Wars. Since we have been with Helios a while, we decided to put him inside this spiky crate for safekeeping. We are then ambushed by the original enemy types from the base games, which was honestly just amazing. Literally not even 5 minutes after this, we are then introduced to our new rage variation, which is my favourite OG God of War callback, to be honest. So we just whip out
Have you ever had 22 inches of meat in your mouth?
the Blade of Olympus and start unleashing on these guys.
Sing.
Shortly after cleaning house with the Blade of Olympus, we are then offered a choice to microwave Helios' head in an attempt to progress through Valhalla. After locking in the 4-minute cook time, the image of Helios breaks and Mimir now comes to experience what our decision was. At this point, Kratos knew he had messed up, so he tries to open the microwave door, but he's just so hench the construct of reality breaks, causing us to fall into the abyss. Fortunately, Sigrun has decided to wreck herself in order to save us, and she is a real one, to be honest, mainly because she's simping for Mimir. It wasn't all bad though, as we were rewarded with a trophy despite making several serious mistakes in the space of a couple of minutes. Back at the beach, we head back in. Firstly is this roid chicken thing, which Kratos gives the good old chiropractic adjustment to. Then we head into the next mini-boss, which by the way gave me the most trouble out of the whole DLC, resetting me back to the beach several times. What is hands down the most annoying aspect about this enemy is in the base game they're actually really easy in my opinion.
I'm coming for that ass, boy.
Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth.
After many attempts, we finally gave him the beatdown that he deserved, and we can progress into the next part of the run requiring some upgrades, and the second judge has now appeared in the chambers. Now it's time to go back through, killing more of Valhalla's Chosen until we can progress again. After killing a handful, we are then taken back to the room where we try to oven bake Mimir, but before we can do anything, another classic enemy from the original game attacks us. Where, in true God of War fashion, we climb aboard. Now with the room clear, Kratos has decided that it would just be better to put himself in the oven this time, which kind of shows how well his therapy is going so far. Surprisingly though, we did indeed progress to the next area and was not cremated. This is the final room, by the way, for all runs, so we also get to find out who sent the sus invite. After being told we're not ready to go through the door, we start our first championship locker room brawl, and Kratos is all oiled up.
I'm feeling romantical.
He will be your final boss for every run, and it resets upon beating him. For story reasons, Kratos gets reset several times before you get all of the story aspects for the DLC. We send Tyr into Suplex City, and we are allowed to take a peek into the final door of the DLC. However, it is not before getting a trophy that has such a clever name it gives Kratos a brain aneurysm and sends him back to the beach. After upgrading and handing in favours to slowly progress a certain trophy later on, we start our next run. On this run, we're basically forced to relive our oath to Ares in the OG God of War, and kind of why we did that in the first place. Keeping it short and sweet, basically Kratos had an army that was losing a battle horrifically. The God of War Ares at the time then offers him cheat codes and admin privileges, so young Kratos obliges, but he does eventually get fed up with this arrangement and kill him at the end of the first game. After talking about that experience, we get introduced to the punishment post. These essentially will give you a debuff for a certain amount of encounters, but if you can get through these you get a free upgrade of some kind, so sometimes it works out. After sprinting through Helheim and opening a door right into the judge's room, we take one of the judge's forbidden love eggs, which he is not too happy about, but we do get a trophy, so it's okay. On a serious note, the item that we picked up was a reference to the older games. In the PSP games, we worked with Orcos to break the oath to Ares. This dude actually has that stone where his heart is, and yet again we do kill him, but he did actually ask for it, I promise. Now that we're back to Valhalla's locker room, we need to go around and hunt down enough of those chads to gain entry to the main arena again. While doing this, we managed to encounter some classic God of War enemies like the Sirens. We decide to show our support by giving them a hug. Many more chads and upgrades later, we are ready to face Tyr again. This time, however, he has a new weapon, some very strange Olympus sex pedal. After giving him the business, we yeet Tyr, and as we're about to finish him off, he hits us with the Kung Fu Panda special and sends us back to the beach.
Skadoosh.
Shortly into our next run, we are reminded that we literally ended the entirety of Olympus to take out the Pantheon of Gods. 20 minutes later, we are back and ready to progress, but this mini-boss happens to be Modi from 2018 God of War, who we manhandled so hard that he T-posed and dipped. Kind of underwhelming, not gonna lie. Now it's more of the same, eliminating more chosen enemies, but on this run we met a Minotaur, which again was another cool enemy from the older games. Back to Tyr, where he whips out 2 Cooper Canes. This fight was a bit tougher than the last two, honestly, but mainly because he had more health.
It was at this moment he knew.
However, yet again, we first try him. As expected, he's about to send us back to the beach, but this time we ask for a story before doing so. This is where Tyr talks about the time Helios saved us from death, but also we talked about Pandora's box and the mess that we caused with that. We then prep to head into our next run, where we end up meeting Magni this time at the mini-boss stage. He was a bit harder than Modi because he was a lot more aggressive. However, we decided to use our rage and dish out a knuckle sandwich. This ended the fight pretty quickly, and just like his brother, he T-posed and dipped. Taking us back to the judgment room, where we yet again steal another item, triggering the next trophy. The item that we stole was a statue of Pandora, which signifies that we have come to terms with what happened to her, allowing us to progress back to the locker room. This time, however, we get challenged by a centaur, the last enemy, specific reference to the older trilogy. Since we grew up clapping centaur cheeks, we knew exactly how to dispose of him, and this one was an easy one. After taking out enough chads and opening enough rifts and chests, I unexpectedly managed to get a trophy named after your mum. The Easy Come Easy Go trophy is for obtaining 15,000 echoes in one run. I was not aiming for this and accidentally got it after stumbling across a challenge room, which I will cover shortly. With the 15k, I went and upgraded a bunch and was ready for the final fight to determine who the true lord of the locker room really was. When we enter the arena, Tyr immediately shows us that not only does he have a purple HP bar, which means he's an absolute unit, he also has a new weapon, the katana. On top of that, he'll also rotate all of the weapons that you've gone against so far into unique combos.
But wait! There's more!
When Tyr gets to half HP, he will run away and bandage while sending some people after you. Normally this isn't an issue, however on this fight he sends a centaur and minions while doing this in a clouded smoke ring and also doing drive-bys at the same time. As you can tell, this fight was loads of fun, but we eventually got towards the end of the fight where we both were very low HP. Fortunately, I had some head tokens from Mimir, which intrigued Tyr long enough for me to get my runic to recharge and end the fight. Taking us into the final cutscene of the DLC, Tyr this time doesn't skadoosh us back to the beach, but lets us reflect and go through this door to the old throne. During the reflection, we got to see a bit more insight into why Kratos tried to kill himself.
Oh my god!
And now the moment the fans have been waiting for, the moment where he looks at his past self and reflects on how to do better. This honestly is a deep but also confusing monologue to himself, where he comes to terms with all the mistakes in his history. After this absolute brain blast of a cutscene, Kratos and Mimir decide to sit in the throne and chill for a while, before stepping back onto the beach willingly this time, giving us the final story-based trophy. Now we still have a couple of miscellaneous trophies to go after, which we can do over a couple of runs. First of all, after collecting Pandora's statue, we can start collecting these boat captain keys, which is a great reference. This poor soul was killed unnecessarily multiple times by young Kratos, and his keys spawn at the beginning of the run near the first chest. First one spawns after Pandora's statue, second one after your next fight with Tyr, and the third is just in your next run. You can get these very easily and you only need 3. The next trophy that we're going to be looking at is the mastery challenges, so you can check how many you've done in the journal. You need to complete 9 of these, and they range from obtaining certain upgrades, opening certain chests, exploring and killing things with certain weapons, and a few other bits. While looking at some of the challenges we had to do, I thought we can also look at the 3 challenge rooms that are offered, which had amazing references. You unlock these by clearing out enough of the chosen enemies, and then you can do these before facing Tyr for insane rewards. These rooms take place in some of the most iconic scenes from the OG trilogy, like the boat that you impaled the Hydra on in the tutorial level of one of the games, an infamous challenge mode room, and then also the same room that you gave Hercules his beatdown. The reason I am touching on these is because by also completing all 3 of these, you get our next trophy, Fight at the Forum. After this run, we went for Tyr, who unfortunately wiped the floor with us. After cashing in the last few bits, we are now on the final run needed to get the last 2 trophies for the DLC, and that is to visit every region and also complete the 9 mastery challenges. I'm only missing 1 more region and also 1 more challenge, so we can get them both here. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, the weapon perk that you side with at the very start alters the regions you're going to be getting for safe zones. Since I had not done a Blades of Chaos run yet, it was time to go all in on them for my last run, which will eventually take me to my last area, triggering the Wayfarer trophy. With all that being done, we also managed to shortly after complete certain battles using certain shields, which means we're ready to cash in for the last trophy.
Get your ass back here, boy!
We spawn back at the beach and head right over to cash in the last favour, and this is where we get the final DLC trophy, taking us back to 100% completion. Overall, I found this journey to be very short but an enjoyable time.
That's what she said!
Especially when considering it's a free DLC and they went all in on the references, looping in his history to his journey. The endless and resetting aspect does get a tad dry, I will be honest. Remember to like and subscribe to see more platinum videos and follow my journey to 100 platinums. Comment below which games you want to see, and remember to check out my other videos that will be on screen now.
我很喜欢冰淇淋。